Based on real historical events, documented sources, and eyewitness accounts, the story you are about to hear is a dramatized first-person reconstruction, March 27th, 1999. Rain hammered against the night sky as the soft glow of my cockpit instruments reflected across the canopy. At first, it felt like every other mission. For years, we had been told this aircraft was nearly invisible, a ghost, a machine designed to slip through enemy air defenses without ever being seen. Until that night, it had done exactly that. My name is Daryl Zelko. On that mission, I was flying an F-117 Nighthawk toward Belgrade. My objective was simple: destroy a Serbian Air Force command center and be back home before sunrise. I truly believed it would be another successful mission, but one thing was different: the weather. Heavy storm clouds covered the sky, and turbulence shook the aircraft every few minutes. Still, I wasn't worried. The F-117 had been built for nights like this. The worse the visibility, the safer we usually were. What I didn't know was that somewhere beneath those clouds, someone had been waiting for exactly this kind of night. As I continued toward the target, a transmission broke the silence inside my headset. It was Mission Command. The F-16s escorting me had received new orders. The weather was getting worse, and they were instructed to return to base immediately. For a few seconds, I said nothing. Now I was completely alone. Those F-16s carried missiles designed to destroy enemy radar systems. Without them, any air defense unit that managed to detect me would have nothing standing in its way. Turning back wasn't an option. The mission would continue. I scanned my instruments once again. Altitude, fuel, navigation, weapons, everything looked perfect. That was the beauty of the F-117. If nobody could see you, there wasn't much to fear. At least, that's what all of us believed. While I crossed into Serbian airspace, another story was unfolding far below me. I wouldn't learn about it until years later. Hidden among trees and farmland, a Serbian surface-to-air missile battery waited in silence. Its commander had spent months preparing for this moment. Night after night, stealth aircraft crossed his skies. He knew they were there. He simply couldn't lock onto them long enough to fire. But tonight felt different. His crew powered up an aging low-frequency radar. Compared to my aircraft, it was old technology. Most of the time, it displayed nothing but rain, clouds, and false echoes. But buried inside all that interference, a tiny dot appeared. Me. Without realizing it, I had just become the ghost someone had finally managed to see. Inside my cockpit, everything remained calm. No warning lights, no alarms, no indication that anyone had detected me. My onboard computer counted down the final seconds before weapon release. I took a slow breath, then I activated the bomb bay. The internal doors began to open. It was a routine procedure. I'd done it countless times before, but there was one detail very few people knew. For a brief moment, those open doors changed the aircraft's stealth profile. Its radar signature became larger, only for a few seconds. Just enough. I had no idea that somewhere below me, an enemy crew had been waiting for exactly that moment. My bombs separated from the aircraft exactly as planned. A few seconds later, brilliant flashes erupted on the ground behind me. The target had been hit. Everything had gone according to plan. I took one last look at my instruments and began the turn that would carry me home. Another successful mission, or so I thought. Then, a sharp tone shattered the silence inside the cockpit. Radar lock. Every muscle in my body tightened. For a split second, I simply stared at the warning panel, hoping it was some kind of malfunction. It wasn't. Someone had found me. Before I could even process what was happening, I caught sight of two bright lights punching through the clouds beneath me. At first, they looked distant. Then they grew larger, faster, closing the gap with terrifying speed. There was no doubt anymore. Missiles. In that instant, something I had believed impossible became terrifyingly real. For years, the F-117 had been the ghost no radar could truly catch. Now someone had done exactly that, and the missiles were already on their way. I pulled back hard on the control stick. The aircraft climbed sharply as warning tones echoed through the cockpit. The F-117 wasn't built for dogfights. It carried no flares, no electronic countermeasures capable of defeating an incoming missile. If that missile had a solid lock, my only chance was to make it miss. The G-forces slammed me into the seat as I pulled the aircraft higher, hoping to force the missile into a mistake. For a brief moment, I thought it might actually work. Then the first missile tore past the cockpit. A blinding flash lit up the night as it detonated just off my right side. The shockwave rocked the aircraft, but somehow it kept flying. For a heartbeat, I believed I'd survived. Then I saw another flash. The second missile was still coming. There was no time to react. It exploded beside my left wing. The impact felt like being struck by a freight train. The entire aircraft lurched violently to one side. Warning lights flooded the cockpit. Master caution. Hydraulic failures. Flight control warnings. Everything seemed to come alive at once. The jet rolled uncontrollably. Flames reflected across the canopy as pieces of the left wing disappeared into the darkness below. I fought the controls with everything I had. Nothing responded. In that moment, I knew the truth. The airplane was lost. The aircraft spun faster with every passing second. I fought the controls with everything I had. Nothing. The F-117 was no longer responding. Fire spread across the shattered left wing as warning lights flooded the cockpit, turning it into a whirlwind of flashing colors and spinning darkness. The horizon vanished. Sky and ground blended into one violent blur. I knew exactly what that meant. There was only one decision left: eject. Even that offered no guarantee. At this speed, and with the aircraft spinning out of control, the ejection itself could kill me. The violent rotation crushed me into the seat. Every movement felt impossibly heavy, as if invisible hands were holding my arms in place. Somehow, through the overwhelming G-forces, I reached the ejection handles. I wrapped my fingers around them, took one final breath, and pulled. The canopy vanished in an explosive instant. A fraction of a second later, the ejection seat hurled me into the freezing night air. The deafening roar of the aircraft disappeared. For one strange moment, there was only silence. I wasn't even sure I had cleared the aircraft. Then I felt a powerful jolt above me. The parachute had opened. As I drifted beneath the canopy, I looked back one last time. Far below, the burning F-117 spiraled toward the ground, leaving a trail of fire across the darkness. I had survived the missiles, but now I was alone, deep inside enemy territory. As I drifted toward the ground, another realization hit me. I looked up. My parachute was bright orange. Against the darkness, it might as well have been a signal flare. Anyone looking into the night sky would know exactly where I was. The moment my boots touched the ground, I unclipped the parachute as quickly as I could and reached for my survival radio. Mayday, Mayday, Vega 31 is down. For a few agonizing seconds, nothing. Then a voice finally answered. They had heard me. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last long. Rescue was possible. First, I had to stay alive long enough for them to reach me. I remembered spotting a drainage ditch while descending. It was my best chance. Keeping as low as I could, I sprinted across the field and dropped into the muddy trench. I smeared wet mud across my flight suit, my gloves, even my face, hoping to blend into the darkness. Then I stopped moving completely. Minutes passed. The night grew louder. I heard engines in the distance, truck doors slamming shut, voices shouting back and forth. Flashlights swept slowly across the fields. Soldiers, police officers, even local civilians had joined the search. With every passing minute, the search closed in around me. Then, I heard something only a few feet away. Slow footsteps, heavy breathing, a dog. Slowly, I reached for my survival knife. The dog moved closer. For several long seconds, I considered my options. If it discovered me, its handler would be only moments behind. But if I attacked the animal, the noise could reveal my position anyway. I stayed perfectly still. The dog sniffed the air. Then, it turned around and walked away. I waited several more minutes before touching my radio again. This time, I heard the rescue helicopters. They were close, very close. The rescue team asked if it was safe to land. I looked around carefully. The search parties were still nearby. Finally, I answered, "Yes, come now." I activated my infrared strobe. Nothing happened. It had failed. The helicopter couldn't see me. I was running out of options. There was only one thing left to do. I pulled out my emergency flare. The moment it ignited, the darkness disappeared. The helicopter saw me instantly. Unfortunately, so did everyone else. Enemy search teams rushed toward the light. Then another voice came over the radio. "Extinguish the flare. It's blinding our night vision." I pushed the burning flare into the mud just as the rescue helicopter touched down in front of me. The crew rushed out and pulled me aboard. Seconds later, we were airborne. Only moments after takeoff, enemy forces reached the landing site. We had escaped by almost nothing. Years later, I learned more about the men who had brought my aircraft down. They had accomplished something no one believed was possible. The only confirmed combat shootdown of an operational F-117 Nighthawk. In 2011, I finally met the commander who had ordered the launch. We shook hands, two former enemies, bound forever by one extraordinary night that changed military aviation history.